Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are having a great day. Palantir has just recently announced a very important partnership with the U.S. Army. We're going to be talking about that in just a second. And this is especially critical for PLTR, as right now it sits at a very important support level. Everybody's been talking about the head and shoulders technical pattern that's been set up, typically a bearish type of outlook, but PLTR is actually doing a good job holding the line. In addition, we also have the Fed that has came out with a statement regarding the future expectations for those interest rate cuts for the rest of the year. So we have a lot of details to get into. If you are a new or returning viewer, thank you guys, number one, so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Now, before we get too far into the technicals, what's happening with PLTR on the trading for today's basis, let's talk about the great announcement that you have here from Palantir, saying that the U.S. Army have selected Palantir to participate as a software system integrator on the Ground Vehicle Autonomous Pathways project, working on software tech for the Robotic Combat Vehicle program. Great news for those PLTR bulls, and especially for the reliability and the growth of Palantir getting involved with those governmental contracts. This is great here because, as we've seen Palantir, one of the big hype and momentum and lots of energy that we've seen in terms of buying frenzy and pressure coming in for PLTR is their transition into the private sector. And this has been really bullish. We saw this in Q4. However, they are still being very involved with the governmental side of things, working with these governmental contracts, and still utilizing their technologies to help improve and build credibility upon the softwares that they are developing. So great to see here, Palantir nonetheless still being heavily involved within the governmental sector, while having a great transition into that private, working on the commercial revenue, commercial customer count. We're going to be talking about that right now, as we see a lot of actually bearish articles that are being released. The tables are turning in the media, and what we see here are analysts are flipping the switch, which is a big indicator right now that they could be trying to take a little bit of some profit taking or selling pressure on PLTR. Because right now, what we sit with technical analysis is at this head and shoulders pattern right here. But like I said, PLTR is doing a good job holding this area of support that we talked about before. This is that 2340 level. We see trading volume that is still coming a little bit lower, 30 million compared to that 3-month average at about 71 million. If we quickly roll over here to the contracts, what we're seeing in terms of options for end of week expirations, April 5th, you're seeing a good hedge and battle right here at that $23 strike price. Actually, the calls right now are doing decently well at 15,000 versus 12,000 on the puts right here. In terms of the short-term perspective, by the end of the week, we do have on the retail and institutional, all the trading side, actually a decent amount of call volume coming in here, thinking that it's going to be a higher price than 23 by the end of the week. Now, if that continues to play out, if we see PLTR that has a reversal here, and this head and shoulders pattern actually is supported and does not face this pullback, we could see PLTR that does get back in here into the mid-20s. However, if there's any type of pullback, the question is the neckline right here, testing this gap area that has not had a lot of trading activity, because after those Q4 earnings were reported, we had that gap that was established from here, the 16-17s, all the way up to the 20s. So area to look for if we continue to see that pullback, getting down here basically to the 20, because this was a critical resistance point, and typically those points can be tested as support when we do see a pullback after the stock does go above that. However, holding the line right here, doing well. What we are seeing right here, like I said, we have Powell saying that rate cuts are still coming at some point this year. And this was a positive effect on lots of the markets. You can see basically consolidating in here in the green, but S&P 500 and NASDAQ closing slightly in the green. Great to see there. But what's the scenario and the situation on PLTR that I want to talk about? And that is, we're seeing a large swing in the media articles right now that are talking about and really highlighting one of the biggest criticisms for PLTR that we've talked about in many videos, and that is its valuation. You can see Investor Place here comes out with this article saying 3 reasons to sell Palantir stock right now. You got other analysts saying, solid fundamentals, but too much hype. Talking about what we're seeing in terms of a swing of the actual momentum from the media. And what you see right here is Palantir's AIP despite successful test pilots, still appears to be largely hype. And one of the main justifications that these articles are utilizing is that we're seeing lots of analysts that are switching to more of a rich valuation and downgrading the actual price targets for PLTR. What we're sitting right now in the middle of the price targets for a lot of the Wall Street analysts combined is at about that $20 area. Exactly what I talked about here. If we see a pullback, that will be an important level that will be tested. Now, we do know valuations is high. We see this on Seeking Alpha right here, getting F's, D's. We review this a lot across the board compared to growth, profitability, momentum, revisions, all here at getting A grades. Valuation, yes, we do know it's high, but this is what investors are paying for the stock right now, and especially with the future direction on what earnings is posing to give. We see PLTR 16 bullish earnings per share revisions in the last 90 days. Everybody's expecting earnings to keep continuing to smash what the analysts are basically setting the bar at. And Palantir has done a great job historically. We've seen that over the last 5 quarters with the 5 quarters of GAAP profitability, smashing their records and what the analyst expectations are. So no wonder why we're seeing a high valuation right here. The question is, why is everybody starting to pinpoint it right now? This is something that's always been happening in the back burner. We know PLTR has been highly valued. We've been addressing that in many of the videos, but right now, a lot of the media is talking about it, saying that AI platform is just AI hype for now, and talking about here that the financials aren't sound. And I don't disagree with this, because I think PLTR has one of the best financial sheets that are out there. Specifically, if we look at their financials, the amount of cash that they have on hand is over $3 billion, and when compared to the amount of debt, which is basically zero. So the fact that they have zero liabilities and a ton of cash on hand, I disagree with this, that the financials aren't sound. I think the financials are strongly concrete with a lot of support. And we see that with the numbers right here. They're talking about right here, the stock-based compensation, picking these small numbers. You're always going to find some small ways. You're always going to find ways to criticize or to push a stock. But Palantir has a lot of resources to invest when times do get tough, and they have a lot of cash reserves, and also being a leading competitor within the industry, they have a lot of cash to stay on top of that innovation and stay on top of that competitive edge. So pinpointing here, financials aren't sound, Wall Street downgrades, this really doesn't affect me at all. And I think what is important right here for people that are taking a long-term bullish perspective, all my own opinion here, that if Wall Street keeps continuing to downgrade and we see PLTR that falls beneath that 20, nothing's changed about the stock. It's just what the valuation is. It's just what the price is trading at right now. Nothing's changed behind PLTR, which means it's at a discount of a price. It's at a cheaper price for more of those value-oriented investors that think that they could get in at a lower cost, dollar cost average, people that get out of the mid-20s. There's many different case scenarios that can be played in this area. We do have Cathie Wood right here. We know from ARK Invest, a big ETF that does invest in disruptive technologies, continuing to increase her PLTR and buying the dip on PLTR position, with the fund adding 3.36 million shares to its portfolio and continuing to accumulate this and becoming a higher percentage within that ARK fund, actually ETF. So with PLTR, what we are seeing, we're seeing a lot, like I said, of Wall Street downgrading. We're seeing the valuation being one of the major highlights right here that everybody has been pinpointing. And we're seeing these revenue metrics and conclusions talking about how Palantir profitable, generating this key cash flow. But however, its revenue now looks excessive relative to its peers with similar growth and profitability, though talking about here, the valuation will count eventually. So basically saying it's going to eventually grow into its valuation. And that is kind of what will happen when PLTR matures as a stock. Remember, they have that criteria met for the S&P 500. Now the question is just when is that going to happen? Could happen this year. We don't know for sure, but they've definitely met the criteria. So many things that are going to help PLTR mature over time. And as these companies do continue to mature, grow, bring more clients on the table, the revenue will slow down slightly. You're going to see not as exponential or explosive of a growth rate. And this is just maturity within a company. One thing I think PLTR, what's specifically important to know is I think it's still relatively in its infancy. And the reason I talk about that, even though PLTR is really right now at the top of the search charts for AI stocks, things like that, Right now, market cap at 50 billion, under $100 billion market cap still. And with the amount of clients that they had reported on board, 497 different companies. If you compare that to all the companies that are out there, there's a lot of opportunity for PLTR to grow. So I think I'll leave it at that. What do you think about all this media out here talking about PLTR, highlighting this as one of the biggest criticisms for valuation? You know, we talked about this a lot. Why do you think this is happening? Do you think this is going to continue? And what do you think about PLTR's new established partnership with the U.S. Army regarding that great program they're going to be working on? Catch you guys later. Peace out. Take care. Have a great day.